Welcome to the Power of Your Mind podcast. I'm Victoria Gallagher, your host. Have you been attempting to use law of attraction or hypnosis to attract financial abundance, a soulmate, or career success? Would you like to be happy, motivated, and successful? Have better health, enjoy more fulfilling relationships, overcome struggle, and gain mastery over your life? Then join me on this amazing self-help podcast where you'll unleash the power of your mind. I'll be sharing 20 years of wisdom and techniques of hypnotherapy, law of attraction, visualization, meditation, personal growth, positive affirmations, and other effective methods to help you tap into the great power which resides in your mind and become the best version of yourself. Well, hello and welcome to today's episode of the Power of Your Mind podcast. You're listening to episode number 97. I'm Victoria Gallagher, Law of Attraction hypnotist and #1 best-selling author of Practical Law of Attraction, Align Yourself with the Manifesting Conditions and Successfully Attract Your Desires. I'm also the founder of HipTalk.com and HypnoCloud apps. So be sure to go to the App Store and download our latest HypnoCloud app from iTunes or Google Play stores. So today I have a very special guest with me, Kerri Hummingbird. I love that last name. Love hummingbirds. And so Kerri is a soul guide. She inspires people to lead their lives wide awake with an authenticity, passion, and purpose that positively impacts others. She catalyzes mind shifts that transform life challenges into gifts of wisdom with her Reinvent Yourself program for individual and group mentoring. She is the international best-selling author of The Second Wave, Transcending the Human Drama, and the award-winning best-selling book, Awakening to Me, One Woman's Journey to Self-Love, which describes the early years of her spiritual awakening. She has served as a social activist, leader, and philanthropist for over 3 decades. She is the founder of the Skills Not Pills movement and host of Soul Nectar show. And today, Kerri is going to be sharing some insights on getting into the flow and channeling your brilliance. So welcome to the show, Kerri.
Thank you so much for having me on, Victoria, and hello to everybody that's tuning in to this episode. Hopefully we can provide some good channeled guidance today.
Yes, definitely. Yeah, we're sitting here. I said, we need to just go ahead and start recording because we were already off on a roll. Today, as we're recording this, is April 8th, Wednesday, April 8th, 2020. And so if you're listening to this 5 years from now, you might recall that we were in the middle of a global pandemic, but by now everything's much better.
Of course, by now it's beautiful. 5 years from now, it's amazing.
Exactly. But today, as we're dealing with this, I won't go into all the hairy, nasty details of what's going on out there, but there's a lot that we're dealing with and a lot that other people are dealing with. And so I believe that Kerri is going to help to provide some insights on maybe even how we can get into the flow just even during this, because nothing changes. None of this changes anything. It doesn't change the way manifesting or law of attraction works. We're still able to apply the exact same principles today as we were before this all happened. But it's just so easy to allow ourselves to get caught up in the negativity and get distracted and allow this to pull us away from what we were in the middle of doing, which was creating our best life ever and tapping into that power that resides within us all. So I'm glad you're here. You bringing a lot of love and light and color to the show today. Loving your hair and your background, your butterfly background, and so thank you for being here.
Absolutely. Oh, I'm really excited to be here. This is I'm sure you feel this way as well, and many of the people in your audience, I'm sure, also feel this way, that we've been preparing to be prepared for exactly this time. And maybe you've been hearing the message from your higher guidance, the time is now, for like the last couple years at least,
Yeah.
like emphatically, like the time is now, the time is now, the time is now. And you're like, okay, I'm ready, I'm ready, I'm ready. And then like sit and wait. I'm ready, I'm ready, I'm ready. And then sit and wait. Like, when? Well, now is the time, clearly. Like,
Well, we've gotten the message. We've gotten the message from the universe loud and clear that it's
so
the time
loud.
is now. It's so loud. We can't ignore it anymore.
Yeah, and I don't want to belittle it. Like I want to say, like, there's a lot of suffering going on the planet, and I am joyful, and there's a lot of suffering going on the planet. So I wanna first start off by saying that, because anybody that's watching me is like, she's so freaking happy. Like, what's up? This is like a tragedy happening on the planet. Yes, and so we're moving into like this next level of mastery right now as souls, right? So those of us who can move into this space, we're being called to hold everything we've learned, all that we know about the law of attraction, about personal mastery, about the effects of our thoughts and our feelings and everything. We are being called to hold that in the highest vibration, in the highest sense for the planet, because we are holding space for a lot of different souls of different ages and lessons and capabilities right now. So while we hold that there are a lot of souls on the planet that are experiencing some devastation, we also hold that in the middle of all of that, love and joy and devastation exists side by side. It's not separate. It's all part of the same human experience. Everything exists together. So we can bring the joy and the pain, and they happen in the middle, no longer at opposite ends of the spectrum, or no longer like, oh, not that, I only want this. No, we're like moving into mastery of like all of it at once. We can have it all. And we can move through it with much more grace than when we're trying to like say it doesn't exist, or get it out of our room, depending on where you are in your spiritual process. If you're still trying to kick that stuff out the door, this is the opportunity to go, oh, wait a second, I have to embrace it. I have to bring it in order to dissolve the tension that I'm experiencing in my life. So that was a big download right there. I'll
Absolutely.
Just stop for a moment and let you ask questions or direct the conversation, because I could keep going, but
Yeah, and I love that you say download. So when you're talking, does that mean, because you mentioned that you're a channel? So as you're sharing, as I'm hearing what you're saying, are these spiritual messages that are
Yes.
coming from your guides?
Yeah, it's very quick when it happens. It's just I've done a lot of soul integration with my higher self, soul called White Eagle, and so I've done a lot of soul integration at a really deep level now, so that it's almost seamless. Like, it can just come through, and I still have those moments of personality where I'm totally in my personality. Like, that's my personality. And so I'm able to discern it, and I've just done so much integration work that it flows, that's like in the flow. Like, I don't have to stop and listen for minutes and minutes and minutes to get the download. Like, it can be I just allow it to flow through. I'm trusting it.
I really, really appreciate that. I really love that you said that. And I'm connecting to something right now that I don't know if I've been calling to me, because there's so much synchronicity in what you just said here. So recently, because of the channeling thing, for some reason, I have been attracting to my show a lot of people who do that, like Joshua, the man who channels Joshua, was on my show recently. And then I've had coaching meetings with people who are very much into Abraham. And then now I've attracted you to the show. But in addition to that, I was just having this conversation on one of my walk and talks with my husband. And I was just talking about how I really wish that, because I feel like I work so hard at figuring out and coming up with the content, and kind of needing to like have all my content prepared before I even will turn on my camera or turn on my recording. And I don't I don't allow myself to trust that I mean, I've been studying this stuff for so
long. You know it like you
long.
know it like you know it like you know it. You know it so well, like you can trip yourself up with it.
It's so true. It's so true. And it's like, it's never, ever happened before that I'm actually at a loss for words. I mean, I usually run out of time before I run out of words. They're always there. But for some reason, there's this disconnect between being able to just trust that ability to receive those and say those downloads. I think one of the things I got in touch with the other day is that early on when I was in school, I was told that I have a very low reading comprehension level. And so I feel like there's this block there. Like, I know a lot, but being able to read something and then turn around and say what I now know, there's like this little block to that. And so anyway, I don't know why I felt the need to share that with you, but
no, it's
we're
actually
just being
really
authentic.
Totally being authentic, and that's actually highly relevant to what's going on right now. So I'm glad you did bring it up, because we are moving into the age of Aquarius, and I know that everybody's out there and they've heard the messages. We're breaking down all the patriarchal structures, and we've been hearing those messages for years now that 2020 would be a big year of breaking down the patriarchal structures. Of course, none of us knew what that was going to look like, and then it happened, and this little tiny virus came along, and all of a sudden all the corporate structures, the patriarchal structures, are crumbling down right before our eyes. It's like, whoa, it really did happen. So,
crazy.
So like one of those, I mean, I channeled the messages in my book last year in the second wave. It started in February. I started channeling that book, and all of these messages coming through about we're moving out of the book of fate and we're moving into the book of destiny. So you need to wrap it up. Like, whatever you thought you were in your life plan and your name and your family and your dramas and your traumas and all that stuff you identified as you, like, get it wrapped up, because we're moving into the age of Aquarius and we're moving into a whole new potential for you to be soul guided and in the flow with your soul, creating things you never even dreamed were possible, because we can't dream these things up from the human's consciousness. We got to dream it up from the soul. It's so much more expansive from soul than it is from this little brain, and this wonderful machine, but like this little brain. So like that is exactly the point I wanted to bring back to what you just said. It's so beautiful that you just said that, because, we're up until now on the planet, it's all been about prove it to me. Give me reams of evidential data in a report or do a scientific study that is infallible, and then maybe I'll listen to you.
Right?
and the funniest part about all of that proving everything is that it has to do with intention, and we know from the law of attraction in the quantum field that whatever you try to prove, you can prove. So like Lynn McTaggart did that wonderful book about the intention experiment, which really showed very clearly how this works. So we're in this process of realizing that it's all a story. The whole thing's made up. Even the people that were scientific and all in the know and like prove it to me and I have reams of data, and they're just proving what they proving what they believe. So we get to be in knowing now. Knowing is knowing is beyond proving. Knowing is beyond believing. Knowing is beyond trusting. Knowing is just knowing. Period.
I love
and
that.
when you're in knowing, you're in the flow. That's how I can allow myself to just all these words to flow out of my mouth, because I'm in soul knowing, and my personality self and I have just like integrated to the point where she trusts me. See, now I'm speaking from soul, where she trusts me so that I can just deliver the message I need to deliver without being blocked and questioned and all of it going through the filtering of the brain first. It just comes right out the mouth. That is the space we can be in.
So that's the flow state.
That's the flow.
So how does a person get into this flow state?
A ton of negotiation.
It's like when you first learned how to like get into this flow state, like what happened?
It is a matter of, okay, so this is really great. So I just want to speak on two different levels now. So I'll be speaking right now on the soul level. So we'll speak on the soul level, and I'm just going to speak to all the souls. So I'm speaking to the souls that are inhabiting and working with the human. So like at the soul level, what we need to do is we need to get the human being to trust us and the personality self to trust us, to release control, because the human has an autopilot system, an autopilot protection system, so that you can be completely unconscious and go to sleep and the thing won't self-destruct or, drive into a a barrier and explode. So there's reasons why that self-protection mechanism is in place, is so that while you're figuring out how to interact with your vessel, your human being, your human consciousness, it can protect itself. It doesn't need you there to do it. But then at a certain point, you're like, okay, I've been watching this long enough. I want to take control. And that's negotiation, okay? Because every living being has free will. Every living being is honored. Okay, so your vessel, your personality, the body, the avatar is just as valued as you are. So it's all, we have to honor and respect that the vessel is a being, and it has a life, and it has an intention, and it has an identity, and it has desires, and it has feelings, and it has all this stuff. And you got to honor it. It doesn't want to be a puppet. It definitely doesn't want to be a puppet.
Right.
So if you make it feel like a puppet, it's not going to come along.
So you're talking about that, the body. You're talking about really the person we are self-identified with,
mm-hmm.
that person, but the soul gives us, as our personalities, it gives us free reign to make choices as to whether to operate from the soul level or operate on our basic ego level.
Exactly. So you just came at the equation from the other direction, which is awesome. So I was speaking at it from the soul place. Now we'll go down and speak at it from so I'll just go shift into Kerri, and we'll just speak at it from the personality space, which is, okay, for me, I had to trust that, number one, that this was real, that I actually had a loving presence that cared about me, that was guiding me and listening and always present. I had to trust that, because for a long time I didn't think anything was listening to me, and I thought I'm just alone on this planet and nobody cares, and I'm having to struggle and do it all myself. And so it took a long time to break down that conditioning in my own brain to trust that that this loving presence that kept showing up for me and creating little miracles, little tiny miracles for me that were whoa, that just happened. I can share some of them, but little tiny miracles that are not ordinary, that you go, that just happened. That is not ordinary. That was something bigger that just created magic for me. Okay, I trust that. It's those kinds of playful interactions that souls can be having, I'm just speaking at the soul level again, can be having with their personalities, to get the personality to trust that it's okay. You can relax.
So what were some of those miracles that, and so when did you have, how long ago did you have your first sense that you were, you had this guide, you had this loving guide, and what was that experience like?
So I had some really pivotal moments, but the biggest pivotal moment was I spent the first 2 decades of my life as going to psychotherapy and trying to fix myself. So anybody that resonates with that, the weekly psychotherapy, the talk therapy, and I'm not dissing talk therapy. I'm just saying it didn't get to the trauma. Okay. So it sort of kept me spinning in my story. And I self-selected that. Okay. So I also want to say that we self-select who we choose to work with, so we can spin out on our story if we want to, and we don't want to face the real thing. So what happened was I finally said, okay, that's not working. I was needing to save my life at this point, because I was that depressed that I was I'm going to end up killing myself if I don't stop. I've got to do something radically different. I walked out of my 20-year relationship. I stopped psychotherapy, and I just sort of was bad for 6 months, did whatever I wanted. And then I met a teacher, and that led to a teacher of earth-based spirituality, that I had a spiritual healing. In the spiritual healing, I was lying on the floor in his office, which felt a little bit like a demotion from the couch, because I'm on the floor. But he was drumming. He was doing a drum journey to help his inner sight to see what it was that caused me my original wound, my deep trauma. And then he was doing that, and my brain was going like busy, 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 busy. I was, I don't know if anybody can resonate with that out there, but your brain's just like chitter chattering away.
Oh,
And,
yeah.
and finally
It never stops.
so talkative. And I was like, finally, I was like, okay, I'm going to believe that something could happen, because what could it hurt me if I just believe for just a moment that something good could happen right now? Well, it can't hurt me if I just believe it for just one moment. I will just believe it. And the moment I made that choice, he stopped drumming, and I simultaneously felt a loving presence come in over me. Like there was a body hovering above me. I couldn't see it, but I could feel love. Wow. Like an angel hovering above me. And I was like, wow, okay, I'm going to expand this, and I'm going to believe that something really good is going to happen. And as this practitioner did the healing, he was pulling energy out of my heart, and I could feel him pull it out and flick it in some ashes. I could feel that. How do I feel that? And I started realizing it's like all of my identity or idea about who I was started breaking apart like really fast, because I'm not one solid thing. I'm many things, because something's being taken out and put over there. I'm healing through something I can't see, but I can feel. And I've got this loving presence over me. And then he put this stick in my hand, which turned out to be a crystal, which he had put my soul part in from when I was 1 year old. My soul, my little innocence had fled my body when this trauma happened. He put it in this crystal. He put it over my heart. I didn't know what it was at the time, and I burst into tears. Oh. All I felt was and I just cried. And then it was afterwards he told me what it was. So all of this profound healing's happening, and I don't know anything. Like, I don't know what my brain doesn't comprehend what's happening, but it's very significant.
Absolutely.
And my body and my emotions are telling me this is significant. So it's that shift, it's like that was a powerful experience I was given to start unraveling my mind control over my reality. Yeah?
Yes. And so you completely became, you let go of your guard, you let go of the resistance, you detached from how it should look or how it would be.
The story.
And the story, and you just surrendered. And I just love that the moment you surrendered, you called it into being.
But the personality self had to surrender. See? Like me as Kerri had to surrender and say, okay, I will allow a miracle to happen for me today.
If you find value in this personal growth related material, I strongly recommend that you sign up for your $1 trial to my Personal Growth Club. Just head on over to personalgrowthclub.com and get a whole month of premium Personal Growth Club video training materials, meditations. You also get 6 free hypnosis sessions that are valued at over $174, all for this trial of just $1. Even if you cancel, you can keep the 6 hypnosis sessions. That's my gift to you, and that's how confident I am that you are going to love Personal Growth Club. Go to personalgrowthclub.com and start your $1 1-month trial today.
And there it was, right there. Like the moment I made it was like, it wasn't gonna, like White Eagle's not waiting 1 second. It's like, no, I'm there, because it gotta take the opportunity.
It just came that instant. And that's how I perceive, you manifested that in a way, because that's how I explain manifestation, that when you're completely 100% in alignment with everything, your beliefs, your desire, your thinking, your vibration, your actions, all of that's in alignment. It's not easy to get all that into alignment. That's the work. But getting into alignment and listening to spirit and accepting that we are manifesting beings, all of that into alignment, manifesting is instant.
Yes, and Your soul has a plan.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
This was the part I always fought like before. Like I would be like, oh, I'm a manifester by design. I should be able to just manifest anything. I mean, what's the hold up? I know what I want. I'm clear. I'm aligned. How come it's not happening? And I remember this class I was taking with Alberto Villaldo, who is the founder of the Four Winds Society, where I studied. I got my energy medicine degree there. But he was talking about, Kerri, you're a mom. You have learned that you had to make all the peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. Like no one else is going to make them. You have to do it. You got to get all the kids ready for school. You got to do all this. And if you don't do it, it doesn't happen. So your brain has been trained to think like if you don't do it, it's not going to happen. He said, but you set the intention and you're clear, and then you have to let it go. Maybe it happens, maybe it doesn't. That's Absolutely. That letting go part is so important. And maybe it happens and maybe it doesn't. But I got to say, typically it always happens in alignment, like you're talking about. It just might not be in the timing you want or exactly the way that you thought it was going to show up, because your soul is guiding you. The other thing is, like, we can open to more mystery and more delight and more awe when we're able to let our soul totally lead.
Right. Well, that brings me to, and I touch on this in my book, but I honestly, I don't go deeper into it. And I want to get into your book here in a minute, but you just brought something up for me when it comes to the desire. So I believe we have our two levels of desire. We've got the ego, and personality desire. But when we are in alignment with our soul's desire, that's when we are really tapping into, that we need to align with that desire, because we have what we think we want on the superficial level. And that's when we are in resistance. That's when we're pushing against. That's when it's hard to let go. That's when we want to take control. And that's the ego-driven desire. And that's why those desires, sometimes maybe we have to let go of those so that we can allow the true heart's desire, soul's desire to come forward. And so really all we're doing is we're manifesting like what you are talking about, our soul's plan.
Our soul has a plan. And I want to say, like, sometimes we get so impatient. I don't know. Anybody else have the impatience dragon? Like, or like,
oh no, never.
You're like, I said by April 25th, like, didn't you hear me? Anyway, so demanding energy doesn't get you anywhere. So I'll just say that. I've learned that. But I've also, like, when you were talking, I was hearing also that some things are building blocks. So I'm reminded of when I launched the Skills Not Pills movement, for example. Mm-hmm. When I launched that movement, the inception of it was at a gathering for a mastermind group that I was in. And I had this night of tossing and turning, and it felt like big energy work was being done on me, and I was having a hard time sleeping. And then I woke up in the morning and had this epiphany. And I was like, this is what my story means. It means skills, not pills. And I said it out loud to everybody, got chills, and the whole room lit up. And they're like, that's it, skills, not. So we had that big confirmation, right? Like, this is the thing, this is the thing. And so I put all this energy into launching this Skills, Not Pills movement. And I got a lot of people thinking about it, and I brought in tons of experts, and we had all these wonderful interviews, and we were really being inspiring. It was not a shaming or judging or blaming or anything like that. But we were like made like this much of a dent. like it just felt like no one was listening. And I'm like, what the heck? Like, it was such a clear message to do this, but it didn't really seem like, it didn't bring a bunch of money. It didn't bring a bunch of clients. It seemed stuck. The energy of it
frustrating.
Stuck. And And I said, okay, well, then I got the download, leave it alone. Move back into Reinvent Yourself, work on your Reinvent Yourself program. I channeled and downloaded like all of these teachings, and I put the whole thing together in like record time. Like, I was in flow. I didn't think, I just said the video, bam, it just like came out. Published that thing, and people still can't get through all of it. It's so much content because that's how prolific it is. I was like, why did I just spend all this time on all this energy on this skills not pills when nobody's listening, and now you want me to just go do this other big thing, like, okay, then nobody's going to listen to that. That's what my brain was doing, but I went and did it anyway. Well, so now 2 years, I think it's been 2 years since that skills not pills. Now look, people are ready for that message.
Yes.
Very close to ready, because there was no pill to fix this.
Mm-hmm.
So
yes.
now they have had a collective lesson about relying on end-of-the-road measures to save you, rather than being proactive and taking care of your health and making sure that you have good immunity, good emotional health, good mastery, you're exercising and taking care of yourself, doing your spiritual work. Like, now people are listening to that message, right? They're at the beginning, maybe not quite listening, but they will be a few more lobs from Mother Earth in their direction. They'll be listening to that message. So it makes sense to have initiated that process and built a foundation. So sometimes the soul
timing
plan is so long. We're so impatient. That's what I want to say.
Yeah, I mean, well, we're clock watchers. We're watching.
We're like, why? I want an instant reward for doing this.
Yes, exactly. Oh, I can relate to that with so many of my own projects for sure. So I definitely understand that. But, again, it's, the timing is not always according to the way that we consciously think it should be. There's a deeper reason why we have to trust that. We have to have faith that there is a deeper reason why it can't be right now. Maybe,
and timelines are constantly changing. I had another vision. This vision was in a deep meditation on the top of a cliff overlooking out in the Utah area. Is it Utah or Colorado? The Four Corners area. And I was sitting on top of a cliff and I was looking down into the valley. It's like I could see all these points of light. And then I was gazing at all those points of light and they started moving, almost like little wheels, and everything's turning and everything's moving. And I got this sense, and then I started seeing the earth breathing. Like I got so deep, I could see the earth like breathing, like undulating. And I started realizing, wow, like think about this mechanism we're in. We're on this planet that's alive, that's breathing, that's conscious, that has all these billions and zillions and trillions of little tiny moving parts. And most of those parts have free will and choice. So coordinating the synchronicity connections between all those little pieces and parts is super challenging, and it's ongoing all the time. So we can't just put an anchor out and say, this is what's going to happen and let me reel myself towards it, because by the time you get there, it's probably out of date. So we got to stay more current and in the now. The invitation is to be in the now. That's what I keep getting. Be right now. Stop trying to create from this current level of consciousness, because all of that's rapidly shifting, as we can see out there in the world. Things are really fast. So if we're trying to create something new from this level of consciousness, it's tricky. So it's a very, we got to stay a little bit calm and present through this process until a big portal opens and we get to a substantially increased level of consciousness. Then we can be creating something even way more impactful and beautiful. So that's the invitation I keep getting, is be patient. It's coming. It's coming. It's coming.
Cool. Very cool.
Yeah.
So I love that you channeled your book, The Second Wave. Can you tell us a little bit more about what we can expect to read or hear? Tell us a little bit about that book.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's a little bit of a mind blower, as you can imagine, probably already. So I didn't know anything about the second wave when I started writing the book. So I said, why am I writing about the second wave? What is that? And I was directed to remember that I had run across a little video on YouTube from Dolores Cannon, who wrote books called The Convoluted Universe and a lot of crazy stuff, just these amazing stories about aliens and all kinds of stuff that I couldn't read the book. I tried reading it and I fall asleep. So you would think I wouldn't, because it'd be really interesting, but I wasn't ready for that content. So I saw that and I went back and reviewed that video, and basically you would love hypnosis. She actually is an expert in hypnosis. She developed this technique over about 40 years of career of quantum healing hypnosis technique, which goes deep into the subconscious to talk to the soul. And so she would have clients write a list of questions, what do they want to ask their soul? And then she started, interviewing the souls. And what she found is that some souls would say that they were part of the first wave, and some would say, I'm part of the second wave. So she's like, well, what is that? What she found during this deep hypnosis state is that people would say, I'm from another planet. I'm from across the galaxy. I'm from someplace else. And I came here at the turn of the ages to be in support of human consciousness lifting because I really wanted to be part of this big experiment. So the second wave are people from other parts of the galaxy that came here to be part of the human species and experience what it's like to be human and then lift the consciousness because we have free will. Generations and generations and generations and generations of not forgiving it and being angry and holding a grudge have led to the congested place that we have now experienced. So you have to have somebody with enough soul mastery to remember love and remember forgiveness while incarnated in a vessel that everything it wants to do is separate and be, angry and all the patterns, because we have ancestral DNA in our bodies. And that is powerful stuff. Your ancestral DNA really is a big part of your experience of life. It influences how you feel, how you think, how you operate, your default patterns, how you perceive the world. You're in like a thumbprint suit infused with your ancestors' experiences and your early childhood experiences and all the stuff that you made up in your mind. And you've somehow got to navigate that to come back to the truth and back to love. It's a big puzzle. And a lot of souls find it troublesome and difficult. So expert souls, people from around the galaxy that have already done this other places, are like, this is a great challenge. I want that challenge. So embodied into lineages with tons of ancestral karma that needed, tons of unforgiveness and just trauma and things, incarnated into those family lineages, walked around like, why are these people so unloving? What is the matter with them? Why is everybody so messed up? Why don't they just understand about not lying? Why do they just not understand about not cheating? Why do they do those things? Like just in perplexed, a state of perplex. And like, okay, I've got to heal this from the inside out because usually thought it was your fault because you were born into a system that said it's all your fault. So this was all a big setup because when you come to Earth, you have Earth amnesia. You don't remember anything, So this way it's built in. Like you were built in to do your work. So if you're worried about your purpose, if you're worried like, oh my God, I know this is the time and I don't even know what my purpose is and maybe I didn't do it. You've already done a big part of your purpose just by being incarnated into the family lineage that you were incarnated in and doing all the lifting that you've been doing in your personal life, all the lifting, psychotherapy, hypnosis, whatever the thing is, to heal yourself. Because by healing yourself, you heal your ancestors 7 generations forward and 7 back. So you've already done a big part of the work. So it's a big sigh of relief. You didn't miss the party. You're okay. You did your purpose. Now, phase 2, raise up your conscious awareness of all of what I just said, right? Because everything I'm saying is an activation. You're probably feeling it like your brain is just like exploding. Like
my brain is exploding. No. So being a hypnotherapist for the last, 21 years, I believe in soul reincarnation from the level of just Earth. And so this is expanding it to like, it's not just Earth. This is like other planets. We could be our souls could be reincarnated from. So that's just totally something I never even considered before. And so that's pretty interesting, just the fact that to think that our souls might be so much more advanced.
So much more.
Than we even can conceive.
Exactly. And it's just so beautiful. Some souls are wrapping up their time on Earth, right? Like you go through the curriculum, you're kind of aware, like you go through all these lives and you go through the curriculum and then at some point you're going to graduate. So you have your PhD lifetime where like you go through a ton of crap and you come out loving on the other side, even though you went through hell. And so like you have that lifetime that like is like your big test. Like, can you graduate Earth with no karma? Because we're playing Uno. Like you guys play that card game Uno? cards in your hand.
Uh-huh.
So every time you got a card in your hand that says, I'm not forgiving this until they say they're sorry, or they need a consequence in order for me to let this go, or it's just not right what they did, you're holding all of that in your hand, and then you're trying to hand it to them like, here, take this card because you did this. And they're like, I don't want that card. I'm playing Uno. Like, I'm going out. I don't want those cards. So,
oh my goodness. I get it.
Yeah, like you can't, like, we're playing Uno. So like nobody can get away with a lesson that they need to learn, because Divine Mother and Great Spirit, they see right through all that stuff, and they know that that person needs a lesson. You don't need to manage it. So
the universe is just going to keep dealing you the card, even though you try to get rid of it. You try to get rid of it, but it just keeps coming back. And
until you really cinched it, until you really did learn it, until you thoroughly understand all aspects. That's why we reincarnated each other's mothers and fathers and sisters and brothers and all this, so that we can go all the angles and really understand the dynamics. That's why. So
this is really cool. So in your book, The Second Wave, do you illustrate like how a person can kind of start to understand this a little bit better? Because what we've just talked about is like there's
mind-blowing.
There's so much, is there a little bit more of a step-by-step
Well,
way
first
in your
the downloads.
to start to understand it?
It does. It breaks it down. I even have some really wonderful contributions from some other thought leaders who have great wisdom to share. Jennifer Huff of the Wide Awakening has shared a chapter on how the science behind why you can just heal yourself and you heal the world, like the whole science behind it is in that chapter. So your mind can go, oh, that makes sense. And it has to do with radiating packets of light from your current level of consciousness. So as you raise your level of consciousness, you're always radiating packets of light. And then people are receiving those packets of light. And of course, they have free will. So they can say, screw you with your consciousness and go ahead and be unconscious still. Or they can say, yay, I like that. It feels great. I take it in. So that chapter explains so much. And there's lots of channel guidance in there about how to be courageous on your journey, like how to have a courageous heart to move through your own awakening, how to be like me and just let it flow and go, well, that sounds like crazy, like half the world right now, and they think Kerri Hummingbird should be locked up. But really, it's like the soul is flowing through, and everybody feels that, and they know. They're like, I know that's real. I know that's true. You can feel it inside. You feel the resonance of truth. It's not a lie. You can feel it. And so it kind of blast through all the egoic crust when you have somebody willing to speak from soul and just flow those messages out. So you need to be courageous out there. Like, you've had these moments of realization and then you thought, oh man, I can't say that. People think I'm crazy. Go ahead and say it, because we're already living in a crazy time. This is like upside down world getting turned right side up. So crazy in an insane world equals sane. So you're fine.
Right. So now, you earlier talked about the first wave and the second wave. So how do you know if you're part of the first wave or part of the second wave? How do you get in touch with that? Hello, this is Victoria Gallagher. I hope you're enjoying listening to the Power of Your Mind podcast. As a way of thanking you for listening, I'd like to offer you a one-time discount of 35% off your first order at hiptalk.com. Just go to hiptalk.com and enter the code PODCAST in the discount code area in your cart, and you'll receive 35% off your first order. Thank you so much for listening to the Power of Your Mind podcast.
So I actually created a meditation on my book website, my book page site, that guides you through the process of, it's a little meditation. It helps you to connect with your divine spark, which is can access the truth of you, like your soul connection. Your divine spark is connected to your soul essence. And when you expand that light within you, when you access it, feel it, know it, see it, breathe it, connect it, and expand out, you can ask a whole lot of questions, not just, whether or not you're part of the second wave. But also you just kind of know, because like, if your life has been really freaking challenging up until now, and you've had crazy family dynamics and like all of this toxicity and like what is going on and these crazy life challenges, and you can pretty well be assured that you are part of the second wave. You're here to really work out the kinks. And and you've
so your challenges are just more advanced. You're like, you've graduated from the first level challenges that are just obviously a little easier to get through. When you keep hitting your head against the wall and you're just not breaking through, and you have these repetitive situations and the toxicity and the drama, all of that
just keep getting flung at you, and you're like, what is up with this? Like, when is this situation ever going to get resolved? And it doesn't. Like, you're definitely in the camp of, and especially if this is resonate. First of all, if you're seeing this broadcast and you didn't skip it,
you're probably part of the second wave. If you've made it this far into the episode, you're probably part of the second wave.
And all you're doing now is figuring out how you can be in relationship with yourself with the new knowledge that you are part of it, and this new knowledge that you might not be from the planet, and this new knowledge that you might be some really wise soul that, that up until now has felt kind of like a dunce, because of all of the mistakes and mishaps and everything in your life. But it's kind of just like the growth pattern. Like, how can you help anybody in the world if you haven't gone through it? You can't.
It's so true.
If you haven't gone through it, you can't help anybody.
I always say that, there's a dog barking out there. I'm going to just close my door that flicked open all of a sudden. Maybe that'll help. Okay. Yeah. So, what suggestions do you have for somebody who might have a little trouble getting, their self relaxed into that flow state?
Absolutely. Well, my first step to getting myself, because I told you I had a monkey mind, like really bad, really super OCD monkey mind, really, really like it would never shut up. It was always going, constantly like trying to figure out what was going to happen next that could hurt me. I mean, my brain was just on overdrive. So the first step to quieting my brain was learning to practice earth-based spirituality, which is really all about your senses. It's about tuning out of the brain and into your body and into your senses. So starting to feel like taking a sensory walk, like maybe you'll close your eyes and just walk. Of course, now you have to be sure you're 6 feet away from people, but like just close your eyes and walk on the grass, or just sit on the grass, just sit outside and just feel the earth, feel the sunlight on your skin. Just really focus your attention on feeling your hands, feeling the wind, hearing, listening, any other sense than your eyesight, because your eyesight's connected directly to your brain, and your eyes trigger all that brain stuff. It triggers the brain activity. So you need to shut your eyes and go with your other senses. And then I used Drum Journey. So I eventually got myself a drum, but like a handheld shamanic drum. There's something that is about the drum beat. The drum beat can put you into an altered state of consciousness. So you can put yourself into that state.
So is that why they have drumming circles?
Yes.
Is that the point of that?
Yeah, because the drum beat, why do you think our rock music has so much drums, right? It's just like everywhere. But this is more like shamanic drum. It's intentional to take a drum journey. You can also, if you're not really ready to buy yourself a drum, you can look up Sandra Ingerman. She has beautiful drum journeys. Soul Journeys is what it's called on iTunes. You can download it. And they're like 15-minute little meditations that you can pop some earbuds in, get quiet, lie down, and let the drum music, with the intention that you want to go on a journey to quiet your mind and tap into your soul or tap into a guide.
Do you think that it just maybe synchronizes the, the brain waves, or does it work with our vibration?
Yeah, they've actually proven it. Yeah, they've proven it because they studied the tribes in Africa that do the drum journeys and they go into trance. And it's the rate of the beat that actually brings your mind out of beta state and into alpha state and even theta state.
Okay,
So
that
you
makes
can be
sense.
lucid dreaming. So that lucid dreaming, I just want to say, like, the busy mind thing is totally your false personality, egoic self trying to maintain control. That is completely what it is.
Hmm.
That overthinking is that system. It's that autopilot system. And it stays busy. So because your soul is in the now, in the space created by the now is where your soul is. Your soul is in this space. So what does the ego do? It takes up all the space with things. Doing, thing, thought, doing, thing, thought. So there's no space for the soul. And the soul is always quiet. So the soul is kind of like a very compassionate, loving mother or father
Hmm.
that is just waiting for the child to stop the tantrum.
Right. So it's just going to stand there and wait. It's not going to yell. It's not going to come at you. It's not going to attack you with any
That's not
of
your
the,
soul. If you think your soul is yelling at you and berating you, and that's not your soul.
exactly. So, but
No.
it's just you have to get quiet enough to listen to the gentle messages that
Yes,
it has for you.
exactly. And if you're like me, you might need some really radical self focus in order to achieve that. Like, what I ended up doing was I ended up taking my OCD and transferring it into my spiritual practice.
Hmm.
So I said, okay, ego, you really are OCD with the thinking. Could you just transfer that OCD into making sure I get my meditation time today and making sure that I call all the directions in and I invite sacred space every morning and making sure that I eat well and making sure, so like you just give it different jobs. You're just like, okay, I need you and I need you to do this instead, because the overthinking thing doesn't help me. It makes me stressed out. We also can create that level of stress out for ourselves. Like we recreate the glass ceiling, so that we just keep dwelling in the same negative experience over and over. So
Exactly.
the soul is the one that can lift us out of that paradigm. But it's like sometimes you have to slow down to go faster. And this is one of those things, which is why everyone's in their house right now. Because
Yes.
Divine Mother knows that you need a timeout.
Yes, the universe has sent us to our rooms to think about what we've done.
Or not think and just be.
Yes, or yes. To get back to what we need, what we need to hear.
Exactly.
And so that's brilliant. This is brilliant. This has been a wonderful, wonderful conversation. I'm really, really enjoying this. I really appreciate
I have to say,
your
Right Eagle
message.
has been in rare form. So like there was like just so much. I feel like what I'm feeling on the inside is so much joy. Like there's just like this preponderance of joy and excitement during this whole interview. Has just been like, yeah, let's, like almost like gleeful, like, yay, we're exposing the truth now. This is so fun. And then like there's this certain like just like gleefulness about it, like coming into the truth.
Yeah, exactly. And the thing is that I like to go back to, I said this yesterday and I heard it the day before. I like to listen a lot to Eckhart Tolle. He's just so has such a calming, soothing effect on my soul. And he was talking about he brought up the quote that Shakespeare said that nothing is either good or bad, but thinking makes it so.
Yes.
And it is our external thought process, our conscious thought process, our ego, our personality, I believe, that looks out in the world and sees all the death and destruction and and the negativity and all of that, and wants to look out there and make it all bad and wrong. And it's nothing is good or bad. Thinking makes it so. I mean, it's sad that people are going through a lot of hell right now, and nothing is either good or bad. Thinking makes it so. And if it's like it, sometimes people, it's like, how can you be calm? How can you be just okay with everything that's going on? And it's like, well, thinking that everything is horrible doesn't actually do anything to change the situation or improve it.
No, and actually that's why I always open for bigger insights, because I learned that lesson, that it's my brain was putting information together and telling a negative story, which was creating more negative consequences for myself. And I see the planet, a lot of people on the planet engaged in that activity right now, and they're co-creating more negative outcomes. And so the interesting thing to consider is, if everybody was not creating so much of this, would there be so many deaths? If everybody was not focused on the news and the fear, would there be so many deaths? If we were able to focus on health and vitality and being in harmony, in a state of resonance with the earth, where we're not in dis-ease because we're in love, in resonance, in harmony, then would we have less deaths? So this is like a huge intention experiment, in my view. And so how do you bring yourself, how do you bring yourself out of feeling guilty for being happy, or being guilty for being loving, or moving your way through it? I think it's compassion, and it's also humility, because we don't understand a soul's journey, even our own. So it's humility, because there are some souls on this planet who are not equipped to handle instant karma the way that it's happening right now. You can see it on the planet, where we entered that phase of instant, like it's happening. You think it, you put a powerful emotion.
Be careful what you think about right now.
And it happens. So not a lot of souls are prepared for that lesson on the planet right now. And it would be actually traumatic for them to continue into the next phase of Earth, where we're moving into more and more self-mastery. Because you can't put a kindergartner in a classroom of adults and expect them to be able to just roll with it and just be an adult, suck it up. Just no, if there's a baby soul or a kindergartner soul or a younger soul, this is traumatic, because their lessons will just come so quickly. So just think of it that way. Like there's undulations of lessons on earth. There's undulations, there's movements, just like an orchestra, there's movements of music. And we're entering a movement of music that's a little more mature. So it takes some more self-mastery, and this is a convenient, almost pain-free way for people to exit the earth dimension who are really not down with the next level of curriculum.
Wow. That's a really interesting thought. I really appreciate your insights and everything that you've shared with us. And so you have a gift for our listeners today. Do you want to share about that?
Yeah, it's called the Love Mastery Game. And what it introduces you to the work I do in Butterfly Circle and my Mastery Circle. It introduces you to that like spiritual work. And it's an oracle game, not to tell you what's going to happen, but to tell you, why the heck is this thing happening to me? So it gives you the why. And it talks about the state of being. We're all practicing states of being, like state of being peaceful, states of being. And we're also practicing mastery principles, like claiming and owning, like lifting ourselves to the next level of mastery. Like there's mastery principles. So this helps you understand, well, what state of being am I practicing, and what mastery principle am I practicing, and what earth allies do I have? Because I'm on earth, so like what allies, crystals, would a certain crystal help me right now, or a lake or something? Like it'll just help you figure out what support do I have, and what wisdom can I bring to my life. So it's fun, and it's at kerrihummingbird.com. That's KERRI hummingbird.com/play, because it's all about playing.
Oh, that's perfect. That's perfect for right now. I think that's very generous of you, and thank you so much. I think I love oracle stuff, and I'm sure that our listeners will definitely enjoy playing around with that. So thank you very much for that gift. And thank you so much for being on the show today. This has really been wonderful. really spiritual, enlightening conversation. And I think the message is so current and relevant to right now that we've talked about. But it's also timeless, because no matter where we are on the planet in this journey, I think we can always, I think you, the listener, are going to hear this message at the appropriate time
a lot of
in your
different
life.
places.
Yes. Definitely.
Yeah.
So thank you so much. And you can also just reach Kerri on her website, kerrihummingbird.com, or also tune into her podcast, which is soulnectar.show. And that's her podcast. And you do that, weekly or?
Yeah, I do a weekly podcast, and I interview people like you. Actually, I'm going to have you on the show, interview people like you. And we have these fascinating discussions on my show. So if you're intrigued by the depths of how far this can go, come join the show. Also, that meditation I promised, the second wave, that's at the secondwave.media, the second wave, all spelled out, .media, and you can download the meditation from there to see if you're part of the second wave. Yeah.
Oh, I love that. So that is the secondwave.media.
Yeah, because I couldn't get .com.
Right. Don't you hate it with that?
Yes.
I can relate. I've had a few, my own name, for crying out loud.
What?
Yeah. So that's why mine is Victoria M. Gallagher, but that's fine. So yeah, Victoria Gallagher is an attorney, and doesn't even have a website up, but for whatever reason, I can't. Yeah,
she's like, it's mine.
Buy it. Yep, it's mine. It's mine. So I had the name first, but I'm okay. Victoria M. Gallagher. As long as people remember to put the M in there. So anyway, well, thank you so much. You've been a lovely guest, and you've made a huge contribution to our show today by being on and sharing all of your insights with us on how we can expand and listen to our soul's journey and find out if we are part of the second wave. I'm excited to read your book, and I hope our listeners will take advantage of the free offerings that you've had and check out the book. Which can they get that on Amazon?
Yeah, they can get the second wave at Amazon. Mm-hmm.
Awesome.
And it's the second wave with Kerri Hummingbird, because there's other second wave books that seem to be some kind of strange books. But anyway.
Oh, interesting. Not a strange book.
Mine's not strange. Completely my filter.
Right.
Mine is totally correct.
Right. I love it. So you can, so it's the second wave with Kerri Hummingbird on Amazon.com. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you.
If you enjoyed today's episode, please share it with your friends. And once again, be sure to subscribe to the Power of Your Mind podcast if not already. We can be found as Hip Talk on all our social media accounts. So like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter and Instagram, subscribe on YouTube, and sign up for your free self-hypnosis video training course at hiptalk.com. Be sure to subscribe to the Power of Your Mind podcast, and you'll be instantly notified the moment the next podcast becomes available. Also, please be sure to leave a rating and a review to tell us how you're enjoying these episodes, and that way you're making a contribution toward others getting to share in this valuable information. Thank you so much, and I'll talk to you soon. You've been listening to the Power of Your Mind podcast, brought to you by HipTalk.com, Personal Growth Club, and HypnoCloud apps available at iTunes.